Government to amend Aboriginal People Act. Trump says trade pact achieved with Indonesia. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brendan Lepore. After more than 7 decades without review, the Aboriginal Peoples Act 1954, Act 134, is now being amended, drawing inspiration from the empowerment model of the Maori community in New Zealand. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said among the key elements introduced by the New Zealand government and potentially adaptable in Malaysia are land ownership rights, more inclusive access to education, and the establishment of dedicated financing agencies to support indigenous entrepreneurship.
Ya, kita berhasrat untuk memperkuatkan hak kepada masyarakat orang asli. Dan kerana akta ini terlalu lama, ya, 71 tahun yang lalu, ya, maka pindahan ini adalah untuk melihat mana-mana aspek yang terlalu longgar untuk menjaga kebajikan orang asli untuk kita perkukuhkan. Ini tidak berarti kita mahu menekan kerajaan negeri ataupun mana-mana agensi atau jabatan di peringkat persekutuan. Namun kolaborasi antara persekutuan dan negeri ini penting.
However, the Deputy Premier stressed that New Zealand's approach could not be adopted as a whole, as it must be adapted to suit the needs and realities of the Orang Asli community in Malaysia. Speaking at a press conference at Rumah Malaysia in Wellington, he explained that the amendments are at the preliminary draft stage, with stakeholders' engagement ongoing, involving various parties. The United Nations has insisted that any peace talks on Russia's war in Ukraine must include full accountability for the conflict's litany of violations, following the deadliest month for civilians since May 2022. The call from UN Rights Chief Volker Turk came the day after US President Donald Trump told Moscow to end the war within 50 days or face massive new economic sanctions. Trump also laid out plans for infusions of weaponry for Kyiv via NATO. A spokeswoman for Turk's office, Liz Throssell, said work on a lasting truce must intensify for a peace that ensures accountability for gross violations of international human rights law and serious violations of international humanitarian law. She added Turk wanted any negotiations to focus in the immediate term on ending attacks that affect civilians and protecting the rights of people in occupied territory. The talks should also seek to return forcibly transferred or deported children, establish humanitarian corridors across the line of control, and bring an end to the ill treatment of prisoners of war and other detainees. Throssell said so far this month, at least 139 civilians have reportedly been killed and 791 others injured. The European Union did not approve the 18th Russia sanctions package, which has been stalled for weeks by a wrangle with Slovakia over a separate plan to phase out Russian gas imports. Slovakia has been blocking the US latest sanctions package until its concerns are addressed over a separate EU proposal to phase out imports of Russian gas by the 1st of January 2028.
I'm really sad that we didn't reach this agreement today. I must say that we were really close to reassure Slovakia. The Commission has delivered what they asked for. Now the ball is in Slovakia's court and we must get this deal done. It has been already 2 months.
According to sources, all elements of the package had been agreed, though one member state still had a reservation about a proposed lower price cap on Russian oil. The European Commission last month proposed the 18th package of sanctions against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, aimed at Moscow's energy revenue, banks and military industry. The new package proposes banning transactions with Russia's Nord Stream gas pipelines as well as banks that engage in sanctions circumvention. It also proposes a floating price cap on Russian oil of 15% below the average market price of crude in the previous 3 months. US President Donald Trump said he had struck a trade pact with Indonesia, resulting in significant purchase commitments from the Southeast Asian country, following negotiations to avoid steeper tariffs. Trump said Indonesian goods entering the US would face a 19% tariff, significantly below the 32% level the president earlier threatened. He added as part of the agreement, Indonesia has committed to purchasing $15 billion in US energy, $4.5 billion in American agricultural products, and 50 Boeing jets.
As you know, Indonesia is very strong on copper, but we have full access to everything. We will pay no tariffs. So they are giving us access into Indonesia, which we never had. That's probably the biggest part of the deal. And the other part is they are going to pay 19%, and we are going to pay nothing.
Trump also said that under the deal, which was finalized after he spoke with Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, goods that have been transshipped to avoid higher duties would face steeper levies. It remains unclear, however, when the lower tariff level will take effect for Indonesia. Brazil's Vice President Geraldo Alckmin announced on Tuesday that the country will seek to reverse the 50% tariff imposed by the United States on Brazilian goods as swiftly as possible. During a press conference after a meeting in Brasilia with representatives of key industries, Alckmin indicated that Brazil might seek an extension to the negotiations deadline, describing the current timeline as tight. The tariffs, set to take effect on 1st August, have prompted urgent discussions between Brazilian officials and industry leaders. According to Alckmin, the tariffs are not only unfair to Brazil but also detrimental to the United States. The ongoing negotiations involve multiple sectors, including aircraft, steel and automotive industries, with Brazilian officials also planning to accelerate talks with American business leaders. Roberto Perosa, president of the Brazilian beef lobby ABIEC, said on Tuesday that Brazilian meat packers, a key sector for the national economy, are considering whether to make new shipments of beef products to the United States. The U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, has demanded an aggressive investigation and consequences after settlers beat to death a Palestinian American in rare public pressure against the ally by President Donald Trump's administration. Huckabee spoke out after an initial muted U.S. official reaction to the death of Saif al-Din Abdul Karim Musalat. He said he had asked Israel to aggressively investigate the murder of Musalat, an American citizen who was visiting family in Sinjil, when he was beaten to death. He stressed that there must be accountability for the criminal and terrorist act that occurred last Friday. Musalat was born and raised in Florida and ran an ice cream parlor in Tampa, had planned to spend the summer in an area of the West Bank, known for residents from the Palestinian diaspora in North America. Musalat's family said he was protecting his family's land from Israeli settlers who were attempting to steal it, and the settlers blocked an ambulance, with a young man dying before he could reach a hospital. Trump has staunchly supported Israel, and in his first term, the U.S. walked away from the international consensus that settlements on occupied land are illegal. Israel carried out strikes against Syrian government forces in southwestern Syria for a second day as deadly clashes continued in the region at the Israeli frontier. A witness said at least 4 strikes were heard over the predominantly Druze city of Suwaida. Syria's foreign ministry said it held Israel fully responsible for the attack and its consequences, vowing to protect all citizens, including the Druze. It said the strikes killed a number of Syrian troops and civilians without providing account. Syria's presidency meanwhile said the country would take legal action against anyone proven to have committed violations or abuses, regardless of their rank or position. Damascus deployed troops to the area after clashes between Druze fighters and Bedouin tribes killed scores of people, with Syria's Defense Minister Murhaf Abu Khasra declaring a ceasefire in Suwaida city. Abu Khasra also said that military police had been ordered to deploy in Suwaida to control military behavior and hold violators accountable. Israel, which has struck Syria several times in the name of protecting the Druze, carried out its latest strikes after influential Druze Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajri issued a statement accusing government troops of breaching the ceasefire. The United Nations has warned that mass displacement in the West Bank had hit levels not seen since the start of Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territory nearly 60 years ago. It said an Israeli military operation launched in the north of the occupied territory in January had displaced tens of thousands of people, raising concerns about possible ethnic cleansing.
According to our UNRWA colleagues, this ongoing operation has been the longest since the 2000s during the Second Intifada. This is mainly in the northern West Bank. It is impacting several refugee camps in the area, and it is causing the largest population displacement of the Palestinians in the West Bank since 1967.
The UN Rights Office, meanwhile, warned that mass forced displacement by an occupation force could amount to ethnic cleansing. Rights Office spokesman Tamin Al-Khitan said since Israel's military launched its operations Iron Wall in the north of the West Bank in January, about 30,000 Palestinians remain forcibly displaced. He added Israeli security forces had during the same period issued demolition orders for about 1,400 homes in the northern West Bank, describing the figures as alarming. He stressed that permanently displacing the civilian population within occupied territory amounts to unlawful transfer. The UN Special Rapporteur on the Palestinian-occupied territories, Francesca Albanese, has called the Hague Group bloc of states to break economic ties with Israel during her visit to Colombia. Albanese is attending a two-day emergency conference in Bogota with a group of 32 countries forming the Hague Group. The UN Special Rapporteur said there is no one who has clean hands when it comes to Palestine, and this is not because of bad intentions of states, but because of the interconnectedness of the global world.
Each state must immediately review and suspend all ties with the State of Israel. Military, strategic, political, diplomatic, economic relations, both imports and exports, and to make sure that their private sectors, insurers, banks, pension funds, universities, and other goods and service providers in the supply chain do the same.
The Hague Group seeks to adopt coordinated legal and diplomatic measures against Israel's violations of international law in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories. The 32 participating countries include Brazil, Chile, Spain, Ireland, Mexico, South Africa, Colombia, and Venezuela. Coming up next, Nvidia CEO praises China's rapid AI advancements. Stay with us.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
French Prime Minister François Bayrou has announced a plan to steady France's creaking public finances, outlining 43.8 billion euros in deficit reduction measures in 2026 and proposing cutting 2 public holidays to spur growth. France saw its budget deficit hit 5.8% of gross domestic product last year, nearly double the official EU limit of 3% of GDP. Bayrou said France had become addicted to public cash and needed to get its house in order.
Cette dette augmente de plus de 150 milliards par an. Et pour le dire plus simplement et pour que chacun mesure exactement la charge immense qui pèse sur nos épaules, ça signifie que chaque seconde qui passe, chaque seconde, la dette de la France augmente de 5 000 euros. 5 000 euros de dette supplémentaire par seconde. Voilà où nous en sommes.
Presenting 2026 budget proposals, Bayrou said 2 out of France's 11 national holidays could go, suggesting Easter Monday and the 8th of May, a day that commemorates the end of World War II in Europe. He noted that losing 2 public holidays would add several billions of euros to the state's coffers. Such a measure would bring France into line with Germany's 9 national holidays and take it well below Italy's 12 days. British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves pledged on Tuesday to ease regulation further and announce measures to boost the finance sector, including reforming requirements for banks to separate retail and investment banking activities and a plan to get more savers investing in stocks. Under pressure to get lackluster economic growth going, Reeves doubled down on her message since Labour came to power last year that post-financial crisis regulation is stifling growth and needs to be pared back. Speaking during the City of London's annual Mansion House dinner, she promised meaningful reform of bank ring fencing, rules designed to shield depositors from volatile investment banking. Reeves also pledged simpler regulatory approvals for smaller financial companies and confirmed an easing of access to mortgages.
As I look ahead, it is clear that there is more that we must do. In too many areas, regulation still acts as a boot on the neck of businesses, choking off the enterprise and innovation that is the lifeblood of economic growth. Regulators in other sectors must take up the call that I make this evening, not to bend to the temptation of excessive caution, but to boldly regulate for growth, in the service of prosperity for our whole country.
Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey also spoke during the dinner and said the International Monetary Fund had a key role to play in tackling the build-up of risky imbalances in the world economy. Jensen Huang, CEO of US tech giant Nvidia, on Tuesday praised China's rapid advancement in artificial intelligence, or AI, during his visit to Beijing. Describing the Chinese market as both large and dynamic, Huang made the remarks during his meeting with Ren Hongbin, chairman of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade. He said technologies with AI included will further serve the supply chain and promote the stability and smoothness of the supply chain. In particular, the Chinese market and the technological integration in China provide crucial support for global enterprises. Huang added that AI is moving very fast in China, highlighting the thriving AI ecosystem in China and pointing to the abundance of startups and major cloud service providers.
The China market is so large and it's so dynamic. AI is moving very fast in China. So many AI startups, all of the cloud service providers, Alibaba is doing, QN is doing so well, Tencent is doing so well. Of course, my good friends at Xiaomi, they're doing so well. AI is being applied to everything from consumer applications, internet shopping, grocery delivery, to, of course, self-driving cars and, all these incredible applications. And so I'm very happy to see the AI development here in China.
This is Huang's third visit to China since the start of 2025. Huang will attend the opening ceremony of the third China International Supply Chain Expo on Wednesday and participate in related activities. South Korea's Defense Ministry summoned Japan's defense attaché on Tuesday to protest an annual white paper published by Tokyo, which made a territorial claim over disputed islands located in the East Sea. Both sides claim long-standing territorial rights over the islands, which are known as Dokdo in Korean and Takeshima in Japanese, and lie roughly halfway between the two countries. South Korea's defense ministry said in a statement its international affairs chief Lee Kwang-suk had summoned the Japanese defense attaché to Korea in protest. Lee demanded the immediate removal of Japan's territorial claims from the paper and added that the government will sternly respond to any attempts to harm sovereignty over the Dokdo Islands. Tokyo has claimed the islands as its own territory in its annual defense white paper for decades, prompting protests from Seoul. The islands are currently controlled by Seoul, with a small contingent of coast guards. At least 2 people were killed in New Jersey following flash flooding in the northeastern U.S. that caused travel chaos as the region braced for more heavy rain. Torrential rains inundated parts of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania and Maryland. Local officials said 2 people died when their vehicle was swept into a river in Plainfield, a city in New Jersey, and emergency responders at the scene were unable to save them. New Jersey's governor declared a state of emergency, urging people to stay indoors. In New York City, emergency officials told people living in low-lying areas or ubiquitous basement apartments to head to higher ground. Several major stations in the city's subway systems were flooded, with passengers sharing images on social media showing waves of water gushing past ticket barriers and onto the electrified tracks. In downtown Manhattan, dozens of passengers were reportedly trapped on a train as water poured into the 28th Street station. According to the National Weather Service, the slow-moving summer storm is expected to continue showering the mid-Atlantic region into the middle of the week. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the removal of half of the 4,000 National Guard troops who had been sent to Los Angeles to protect federal property and personnel during a spat of protests last month. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said the decision was due to the success of the mission. President Donald Trump deployed the California National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June against the wishes of Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom to quell protests triggered by immigration raids on workplaces by Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agents. He also sent about 700 Marines. Despite legal challenges, a U.S. appeals court let Trump retain control of California's National Guard. But his decision to send troops into Los Angeles prompted a national debate about the use of the military on U.S. soil and inflamed political tension in the country's second most populous city. The Pentagon has defended the deployment, saying safeguarding ICE agents ensures that they can do their jobs. Even after the withdrawal of those military personnel from Los Angeles, 2,000 National Guard troops would remain in the city along with the roughly 700 Marines. And on a lighter note, more than 300 electric buses were deployed in the Chilean capital and the surrounding area on Tuesday as part of a government initiative to modernize public transport and reduce carbon emissions. President Gabriel Boric oversaw the inauguration ceremony for the fleet of 308 new electric buses, joined by Environment Minister Maisa Rojas and other officials. This has now elevated Santiago de Chile to being the city with the most electric buses outside of China. Rojas highlighted the project as a demonstration of Chile's commitment to addressing the climate crisis, emphasizing its importance in achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The rollout is part of a broader renewal plan, which aims to integrate 1,800 additional electric buses into the public mobility network between July 2025 and March 2026. 2/3 of the buses will then be electric, corresponding to a total of more than 4,400 zero-emission buses. Officials estimate the initiative will benefit more than 5.8 million users across the region. And next in sports, Manchester City signed record kit deal with Puma. Stay with us.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan perkhidmatan 5 bintang.
English Premier League powerhouse Manchester City have extended their kit partnership with Puma on a long-term deal. The club announced on the matter on Tuesday, with British media reports saying the deal is worth around £1 billion, equivalent to about 1.35 billion US dollars, making it the largest in the Premier League. Reports said the new contract runs for at least another 10 years, worth a record £100 million a year to the club. City previously signed a £65 million per year deal with the German kit manufacturer in 2019. The agreement is expected to set a new benchmark for kit manufacturers' deals among English clubs, surpassing Manchester United's £900 million 10-year contract with Adidas, signed in 2023. City have enjoyed an exceptional run since 2020, winning 4 consecutive Premier League titles and securing the treble in the 2022-23 season. However, they did not win a major trophy last season. City will begin their 2025-26 Premier League campaign on 16 August with a trip to Wolverhampton Wanderers. England and ex-Liverpool midfielder Jordan Henderson has signed a 2-year deal with Brentford, the Premier League club said on Tuesday, following his departure from Dutch club AFC Ajax. Ajax confirmed the termination of Henderson's contract, initially set to run until June next year, with immediate effect on Thursday. The 35-year-old will strengthen Brentford's options in midfield following their former captain Christian Nogo's move to Arsenal. Henderson said he will try his best to pass on his experiences, especially to the younger players, while doing his job at the pitch. He added that even at his age, there is still a lot to learn, and he can still improve, which is what he wants to do at Brentford. Henderson returns to the Premier League after a 2-year absence, having left Liverpool in 2023 for Saudi Pro League side Al Ittifaq, a stint that lasted only 6 months. He later joined Ajax, making 57 appearances and scoring once during his time with the club. In March, he earned a surprise recall to the England squad under new manager Thomas Tuchel after being excluded from Euro 2024 contention. Organisers of the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics on Tuesday unveiled the medals that will be awarded to athletes during the Games next year. The medals have the traditional Olympic 5-ring symbol on one side, with an inscription on the reverse that details the event and commemorates the venue. The same format has been used for the Paralympics, which has its own distinct symbol. They were presented at a ceremony in Venice that featured 2 celebrated retired Italian athletes, swimmer Federica Pellegrini and Francesca Porcelato, who has won gold medals at both Winter and Summer Paralympics. The medals have been produced by the IPZS, the state mint, which is owned by the Economy Ministry. A total of 245 gold, 245 silver and 245 bronze medals will be presented during the Winter Games. In the Paralympics, 137 medals will be awarded in each of the 3 rankings. Milan and the town of Cortina d'Ampezzo, one of Italy's most famous ski resorts, are the main hosts of the Games, which run from 6 to 22nd February next year. The Paralympics will follow the following month. That's it from us in our top story. Government to ban Aboriginal People Act. For business news updates, do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or saluran Berita RTM. Until then, I'm Brenda Paul, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat, Disantuni. Thanks for the company and take care.